And here we go. What's up, everybody? This your boy Black Megas back with another Sharpshootin podcast with my boy Pete. Say what's up.
Hey, what's going on, guys? I quickly just wanted to say for everyone watching, the WWE Network is free for the month of February, so don't play around. Just go subscribe. Even if you're going to cancel at the end of the month, just get it, just so you can experience it for the month of February.
Yeah, it's a good thing you'll be able to check out some NXT. You get 4 weeks of NXT. You'll get a pay per view for free. You get to check out some of the documentaries. You can check out a lot of stuff for it. I mean, I did it back in November, and while I wasn't totally enamored, it had enough to end up eventually getting me back because of the pay-per-views. But I don't know, some of you guys might really, really enjoy everything that they present, all the stuff that they put out, especially now that they have that new 24-hour Road to WrestleMania, whatever that new series is that they're doing. I forget the name of it, but some interesting stuff. So check it out. Definitely check it out. But
Yeah.
had a
Well, I
lot to
think
talk about this week.
yeah, between the podcast and actually Raw, there's a whole lot that's happened, especially in Raw. Like I said before, it surprised me how many matches there were on the card
Yeah,
compared to recent weeks.
yeah, and I credit that to one, the snowstorm, two, Triple H and his genius and how to work a crowd. But we'll get to that later. Where do we want to start at?
I think we'll go down the list of what actually happened in Raw, and we have to start with the Authority kicking off Raw with. We'll quote Triple H here: the announcement that's going to shock the WWE universe to its core. Now, this didn't really shock me to my core,
No.
but he's basically saying that Roman Reigns didn't deserve to win with The Rock's help, and then you had Daniel Bryan come out, which I was more surprised for Daniel Bryan than I was for Seth Rollins. Daniel Bryan just kind of felt like he just came, just for the sake to keep the fans happy. WWE brought him out,
Yeah.
and then he they bring Seth Rollins, and I guess it all boiled over. Everyone was saying they deserve a title match, and the stipulation I know you're not happy with is the way they've done this. It's basically like they're taking Roman Reigns' guaranteed match at WrestleMania from the Royal Rumble, and they're trying to go back on it if they could.
Yeah.
It's
And I
like
really
they
don't
want to
like it
erase it.
that they're doing it with Daniel Bryan because it puts them. I think they're putting themselves in a really messed up situation because it's either Brian wins, you give the fans what you want, but you roll over completely. Not only do you just roll over completely, but you roll over completely before the Royal Rumble. I mean before WrestleMania. I mean, at least last year with that bullshit triple threat thing with Triple H and Batista, they at least gave Batista a WrestleMania match, even though he didn't get his main event match. Now you're looking at the possibility that Roman Reigns might not even get his main event match at all. So you kind of look like suckers, like you're just panicking and bowing down a little too much.
Yeah.
Instead of fixing the problem, you're just basically trying to erase it, and I don't think that's the right thing. The flip side is Roman Reigns beats Daniel Bryan. Now you piss people off even more because people really, really want Daniel Bryan in that main event. But you're going to have Roman Reigns go over on him, or at least try to make Reigns go over on Daniel Bryan, and you're just going to alienate people more. So it's it's not a perfect situation. They should have let sorry to foreshadow, but they should have just let Seth Rollins come in, challenge Roman Reigns, and leave it at that, and left Daniel Bryan out of the mix completely. Daniel
Well,
Bryan shouldn't have been in that mix right there, in my opinion.
so so this the stipulation in this match was on Raw tonight on Raw on the night it was Daniel Bryan versus Seth Rollins. The winner would go to Fastlane to fight Roman Reigns, which I knew Roman Reigns would be fighting, but I didn't think he'd be fighting for his Royal Rumble spot. That to me, see, and then the winner of the winner versus Roman Reigns at Fastlane match is going to WrestleMania to face Brock, which I have some dodgy feeling that Daniel Bryan's going to beat Roman Reigns at Fastlane, and then Roman Reigns is going to say, "Look, that's not in the contract. I don't have to defend my spot at the Fastlane from the Royal Rumble. I want in that triple threat." It's going to be. I feel it's going to be a triple threat, but for that whole stipulation to me was kind of stupid. It's just I feel like Vince was just smacking on the panic button. He didn't know what to do, how to please the crowd quickly, and the easiest way he could do it was put Daniel Bryan in a match that he's basically making the fans believe that Daniel Bryan's got a real shot at going to WrestleMania right now, and that's how they want to portray it. So after that, Triple H is saying, Roman Reigns, don't go anywhere, your match is next. And for what's this, the 5th time in a row he's versus the Big Show? I feel like that's the only
probably more than
fight.
that, because how many times have they fought on
SmackDown?
Raw? I think they pretty much had a match every week on Raw and just about every week on SmackDown. So they've had a lot of matches between each other. Even if it's not just one-on-one variations, like on SmackDown, they had the 6-man tag team involved in them. It's like they just keep hitting those two together, and I'm not sure why. I think we get it now. Roman Reigns is strong, powerful. He can even take down, the Big Show and all that. So having him face Big Show is doing nothing for him. And what he did with this match, I don't think did anything for him either.
I've seen they every week since the Royal Rumble, they just keep showing the fact that he can eliminate the Big Show by knocking him over the top rope. It's like they're trying to remind people that what he did wasn't luck. And we know, like, I knew personally that Roman Reigns could eliminate the Big Show on his own. Like, the WWE could make it happen. So I don't know why they have to keep reminding us the fact that he can do it. Like, we saw him do it 3 times in one match the week after the Rumble. But this match, the weirdest thing about this match was that Seth Rollins and J&J Security were at ringside. Like, I felt they were so out of place. Like, I can't understand how they were there. They were, like, because Daniel Bryan, all that went in the back. I thought they would have gone as well, but they stayed. And
I guess
it was
playing up the odds against Roman Reigns type of thing.
Yeah,
I felt like with the end is what they were trying to put Roman Reigns in the position like, oh no, he's going in and he's I feel like they're I don't think they know what they want to do right now.
I think this goes back to what Flying Modem said in the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, where they pin the odds against them, they start doing unfair tactics, and you think to yourself, hey, that shouldn't be happening to him.
Yeah, like he was saying about John Cena, they're trying to do it with Roman Reigns now, and just like making it, oh, you're supposed to feel pity because it's so unfair. But at the same time, it's just like, I don't know, I guess because the cat's out of the bag with Roman Reigns and the fact that you've pushed them so fast without any organic feel to it, that now it feels like anything you do with him, people are just going to be like, whatever.
Yeah, but I was actually pretty surprised the Big Show won, and in a way I'm kind of happy because I'm sick of the Big Show being the size that he is and the athlete that he is and not picking up wins.
Yeah.
Like, Big Show can't be losing every week. It's just retarded. It came off the distraction of Seth Rollins. I think he ended up smacking Reigns in the back with the Money in the Bank. And then Big Show did the choke slam, got the 1-2-3. And that match, again, I hope it's the last time, which I know it won't be, but I hope it's one of the last times we see that feud. Hopefully Reigns can get a new person to fight.
Yeah, I mean, if they want to do this whole, Reigns versus the Authority thing, you do have other wrestlers. You can bring in Luke Harper a couple of times.
Yeah,
Um,
that would be a nice
no,
touch.
I'd
They got
rather he just go against J&J Security right at this.
yeah. So the next bit I know you're gonna like. After that match was finished, a superstar came out wanting he's saying he deserves his spot at Mania, and this was good. This was actually good. We spoke about this last week,
Right.
and I didn't think he was gonna come out. To be honest, I thought that he wasn't gonna do anything, but he
Glad
goes in the ring. And you hear, I think it was Booker T, even though I hate Booker T on commentary, I think you said this boy has lost his mind when he's pointing at the WrestleMania sign.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, then they brought Dean Ambrose out, and Dean Ambrose dumps him over the
Oh,
top rope. Like, well, now you've been eliminated. Personally, I think they should have just started a match at that point. I don't think they should have just had him laying on the ground looking like an idiot. I think he should have just got back up and demanded a match, and they went at it. And then if he gets his ass whipped, that's fine. But they should have built it a little bit more than just that, like, you know, Dean dumping him over and then cutting his promo like that.
I mean, Dean at the moment is on fire popularity wise, like,
Yeah,
and actually, I spoke about this before the Rumble that Dean went in to the Rumble, beating Wade Barrett, and he should have an Intercontinental Championship match. And I thought they left it at that, but now Dean has come out the other end of the Rumble, and he's saying, "I want my Intercontinental Championship match, and it's happening at Fastlane."
yeah, and that's good. He should, like, hopefully they all have a good match. Hopefully he can get the title. I mean, we know Wade Barrett's one of the placeholders for that belt, so give it to Dean and let him have a nice long run with it. I
Make it
mean,
more serious. Make it.
now it makes me think that all the matches with Bray Wyatt are kind of wasted now, because that would have been really good for the Intercontinental Belt. They're going head to head because you actually get two superstars who actually have weight with the crowd going for a championship. It would have brought a little more life back to it. You know what I mean?
I think they'll still find hopefully they'll still find a few matches that if Dean Ambrose is to beat Wade Barrett and get the belt from him, they can get a bit of weight behind these titles. Because think about it, if Dean Ambrose wins the Intercontinental, you got Dean Ambrose your Intercontinental. John Cena was to beat Rusev. You got John Cena's United States. These belts start to mean something. Not saying that they don't with Rusev, because Rusev, to be
Yeah,
fair, Rusev hasn't done the worst job with the United States. Obviously, he's demolishing anyone that gets in his path.
yeah,
But I feel like Cena would make the belt like he wouldn't allow himself. I think you said this last week. He wouldn't allow himself or the title to be taken as a joke while he had it.
no,
He'd want it to be taken seriously, and he'd cut good promos for it, and
exactly.
he'd get good matches. And I want these titles to mean something because I want guys like Jack Swagger, all those, like even Fandango, he could go for an Intercontinental. You got Damian Sandow, he could go for an Intercontinental. It gives all those mid-tier wrestlers something to fight for.
Yeah, it
And
builds competition.
but all in all, that Dean Ambrose promo is good. I like Dean Ambrose on the mic, to be honest. I like Dean Ambrose altogether at the moment. He's just over the top. I hate when Michael Cole calls him, what is it, the maniac fringe or the lunatic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, good God, how many times can you say that? It's
Well,
like,
Michael Cole really doesn't have much in his repertoire. I mean, JR. To be fair, JR could repeat certain nicknames.
Stone Cold,
He
Stone
kind
Cold.
of he could mix it up a lot better, and at least he at least knew when to drop it. It's just like every time Michael Cole does things, to me, it feels like he's trying to remind you of who he's talking about rather than having a conversation about that person. I just feel like he
Yeah.
does it just for promo's sake and not really, it doesn't fit. It doesn't come off natural to me.
Okay. So the next match on Raw was the tag team match between Goldust and Stardust versus the Ascension, which once again happened on SmackDown last week. They've They
Yeah.
took it to Raw. The Ascension were obviously going to win because, let's be real, the Ascension's first loss in the WWE is not going to be to Goldust and Stardust. And I said a few weeks ago that at Mania it's going to be Goldust versus Stardust, and things are heating up again for the second week in a row. They're disagreeing, they're arguing, and they look like they're about to break up the tag team.
Yeah, and just really quickly, I still didn't like the match because, again, you have the Ascension struggling but pulling out the win because they can't get it together instead of the Ascension actually
Dominated.
having a good match. I mean, and they don't need to dominate necessarily Goldust and Stardust, but at least look a lot stronger than they did. They didn't look strong at all. It just was we won because they're not on the same page more than we're good and they're good and we just
We're better.
had a really good match type of thing. Even if
Yeah,
it was like at the end miscommunication caused the match, at least let them look like they were really in the match. I didn't feel like they were in the match at all.
yeah. No, I said that last week when they versed Goldust and Stardust. That the Ascension felt like it was a real struggle for them to win. They did win again with the Fallen Man, which, to be honest, it's one of the coolest tag team moves at the moment in the WWE. I just like how it works so well between them. Like they do it at the right time. And I thought also in terms of after the match when Stardust was yelling at Goldust and then they went backstage and then he was like, what happened out there? And then Goldust calls him Cody and then like Stardust just says, don't call me that. I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that shows that at least
Yeah, so when
even
the split happens, you're gonna see him go back to like "fuck you, I'm Cody" again, which is
yeah,
what
like
we want.
I think the thing you can take out of that though is it shows how, like, even though I don't really like Stardust as a character, it shows how invested Cody
Yeah,
Rhodes is into that character, and that makes it stand out even more because Cody Rhodes could be himself, and he'd be in the top of that middle class, pushing towards. I can't say the world heavyweight because if the two belts were split, I could see Cody Rhodes as a world heavyweight champion, but I can't see him as the WWE world
right,
heavyweight champion.
exactly. He's not gonna be a champion, but at least Intercontinental or US, definitely.
Yeah, see, like that. And honestly, Stardust, I don't like the character at all, but it's good the way at least he's invested into the character. That's just great to see.
Yeah.
So we'll leave that tag team match. Hopefully, once again, this is another tag team match that I hope they can stop replaying. Like, honestly, but we got John Cena's welcoming back Dolph Ziggler, Ryback, and Eric Rowan.
Which kind of
And
confused me because it was like, haven't they been back for a minute now?
they came back before the
Yeah,
Rumble.
like the week before Royal Rumble, and I know it hasn't been that long, but did we need that? Like,
They could have been brought back on. Oh, well, they returned to Raw because if you think John Cena won on the Raw, then the next Raw was cancelled, so they weren't on it. And then
yeah, I know, but it's just the whole ceremony type thing. It's like do their matches. You didn't. I don't feel like you
I
need John Cena to do this grand thing, and I don't think it helped his promo at all to do that.
and I think the weird thing was when Ryback was like smacking his head, like when you know how like when you try and hear the fans, he like taps his head a bit, then holds his ear, and I'm like, what are you doing? But the whole thing was kind of.
Rage.
It was kind of ridiculous. John Cena saying, we can beat the Authority, I'm going to beat Rusev, yada, yada, yada. Stephanie McMahon comes on the TV and says, like, you three guys are going to be in a match, all individual matches. Obviously, Ziggler had his little speech about,
Yeah.
don't you get sick of putting obstacles in our way, and we'll just overcome them. And I thought it was pretty cool, Stephanie's response, how she's like, you get everyone to fight your battles for you, now you got to fight yours. And the matches they actually set up for each individual were good. Like, in terms of like who they were versing, so you had Ziggler versus Bray Wyatt. That's a good match. That is a great match.
Yeah, that was probably the match of the night. Well, second.
You
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 could
had
flip.
yeah. You had Ryback versus Luke Harper. Again, that was really good for Ryback and Luke Harper. At least it's an even competition. It's in a level playing field sort of thing. So the match worked out well. You had Eric Rowan versus Rusev. Even though I don't really like seeing Eric Rowan that much, to be honest, that's just me. But at least he's in a match where it's kind of like even.
Yeah, even though they kind of like
Yeah,
very.
we'll get to that when it's time. But we'll first talk about the Ryback Luke Harper match because Ryback went up first, and this match actually wasn't. You know, to be weird, I usually don't like watching Ryback, but for this match, I kind of was able to sit through it and watch it through. And Luke Harper's he can do some crazy moves for his size.
Yeah, no, he's a really good wrestler. He sells very well. Although you don't really need to sell against Ryback because I'm watching it like when he did that slam when he slammed Luke Harper when he picked him up and just slammed him on the ground. I was like, CM Punk's probably right. This dude hurts people because that looked like it looked like he really like threw him to the mat. It was like, damn, you took that hit real well, Harper. I know you got to be hurting. I seriously think Ryback doesn't know his own strength sometimes.
That's what it looks like. But Ryback did that whole standing suplex where he held Luke Harper up. He held him up for a good 30 seconds to a minute. That's what it felt like, and that was crazy strength. But the match overall was actually, like I said, it was pretty
Yeah, it was
enjoyable.
cool.
And I mean, at the end, obviously Ryback won. I really thought that they were going to go the direction of every single one of those three win their match.
Yeah, for a minute I did too.
But nevertheless, it was Ryback picking up the win with the shell shock. And you know when he went for the meat hook, which I thought, okay, this is it. This is it in the match. He went for the meat hook, and then Luke Harper gave him like a sweet chin music looking thing. The thing that Ziggler does when he kicks the people in the jaw. Just looked crazy. It looked insane. I freaking love that. I love that sweet chin music looking kick. I think that's like an awesome move.
I think like too many people are using it though now.
Yeah, now it's just getting past everyone that wants to do
It's
it.
kind of diminishing like the impact it was when Shawn Michaels did it. In my opinion, too many people are doing it.
Yeah, so from that match, you had Jimmy Uso versus Cesaro, which they're building up that match because I reckon at Mania they might do that match if they don't throw it in at Fastlane at
It's gonna be
Mania.
a fan. That's my problem with this. It's like y'all are doing this matchup a little too much. Because I really do feel like that's going to be the Fastlane match, and it's going to be the WrestleMania match. And it's like you're gonna make us just as sick of that as you've made us sick of the Usos versus everybody else that you've thrown them against in the past couple of years.
Yeah, that's so true. But right now, I'm excited for it. Like I actually enjoyed seeing Cesaro in the ring and actually have meaning behind him. And I think uh, was it Michael Cole on commentary that summed up Tyson Kidd? He said that he didn't know exactly what Tyson Kidd would be in the WWE, and all that he needed was a partner because Tyson Kidd on his own isn't that appealing in
Yeah,
terms
he's
of.
really not that compelling.
But in this tag
Good
team,
wrestler.
in this tag team, I'm excited to see him go, and it's great to see them doing something with Cesaro because Cesaro is a talent in the ring. To be
Cesaro
honest, he
should
should
be
be in
one
the
of those
United States.
top people competing for like whenever if they ever do make these belts like the mid card belts more meaningful, he's one of those people who needs to be at the top of that. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
no, they need to split. They need to split the WWE and the World Heavyweight because Cesaro would be right up there with the World Heavyweight.
Yeah, no, he'd be
Right
like
up there.
Alberto Del Rio was. Yeah, he'd be one of those guys who
Yeah,
would hold that belt and do a lot with it.
and So you had last week you had Jey Uso versus Tyson Kidd, and Tyson Kidd won. This week you had Cesaro versus Jimmy, and at the end I thought Jimmy was gonna win when he went for that splash. I'm like, oh, he's got it. And then next minute, out of nowhere, the uppercut from freaking
I
Cesaro,
love
just
how
like
he throws that uppercut from anywhere too. I think it's
it's
pretty.
like the,
Does
you
it?
know what I compare it to? It's like Randy Orton's RKO where
Yeah,
you just
it's
be like down, and
yeah,
then
it's
next
an out
minute.
of nowhere move that's really cool.
But they're definitely building up the Cesaro, the Rosebuds, which is good to see because I remember when we first spoke about the Rosebuds, they were losing all the time, and now they're picking up wins. They're actually building momentum heading to Fastlane. If they do fight at Fastlane, which I'm almost certain they will.
Yeah,
Hopefully, I'm hoping they don't make it like a full-way tag at WrestleMania, like the Ascension versus this.
yeah, no, they shouldn't.
But
They really shouldn't.
from here, the next segment leads to one of my WrestleMania predictions, which I think is going to unfold at WrestleMania. You had the Miz and Mizdow backstage, and basically, to sum it up the easiest way, the Miz fires Mizdow as his stunt double and hires him. Oh well, makes him his personal assistant. Which I thought that backstage segment was actually pretty good. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I actually enjoy how they're doing that. I want Sandow to go on his own, but I think like sometimes it's funny when they're together.
Yeah,
So it's like
sometimes,
hot and
although it's
cold, to be
starting to get
honest.
a little old, so they're gonna have to break it up soon. Because I mean,
Yeah, and that's why I
well,
think it.
Sandow's too fucking over right now, in my opinion. He's too over to be stuck with the Miz. The Miz is pretty much done, as far as I'm concerned. Like the Miz is now a main event superstars attraction. He is no longer a Raw SmackDown attraction in my mind.
No,
So
it's so true, and the sooner they. That's why I'm thinking it'll be at Mania. It'll be Sandow's WrestleMania moment. To be honest, that's just my way of looking at it. I don't think they'll break it up for Fastlane. I think they'll start arguing after Fastlane.
yeah, hopefully he'll get a big moment and that'll propel him to some. Because again, we make these titles, matter, and he's one of those people who should be in that mix too. That'll make that entertaining.
Uh, See, the good thing about that after that segment was they put on a good match directly after. And I gotta say, for this Raw, it was actually pretty well like orchestrated in terms of matches. Like, it didn't get from really like it didn't go from great to shit to the main event. It just kind of like it stayed at a steady pace.
I
And
don't
this
know.
match was,
We might be talking about
I,
one coming up, but go ahead.
oh yeah, oh wait, okay, but oh no, wait, there's two. Trust me. Dolph Ziggler versus Bray Wyatt, and this was a great match, hands down. And I think anything with Bray Wyatt right now is magic.
Yeah, Bray Wyatt, he fucking worked his ass off, and he was working with somebody who works their ass off too, so that made it even better. I mean, that match was ridiculously good. That's why I say it might have been my match of the night, um, even with the main event. I mean, they did a really good job. Was happy that Bray got the win too.
Can, can we just talk about that win for a second? What was retarded about that was the famous basically just smacked Bray Wyatt's head on the floor and bounced him straight back up. Like, you, it's weird seeing like a finisher not knock someone out. It's like, in the triple threat at Royal Rumble where John Cena did the attitude adjustment, then Brock Lesnar got up and he gave him another one, and then he gave him another one.
All right.
It's weird because you've seen Brock Lesnar get pinned by one. So how's he getting up from three? It's the same with the famous. I'm pretty sure Dolph Ziggler himself has won a match with that move,
Right.
and just to see Bray Wyatt get up instantly and do the finisher, it made me think Bray Wyatt maybe immune to finishes. He may be immune because I remember in the Royal Rumble when Zack Ryder did his broski boot thing, the
Yeah, he
kick.
just got up and he just punched him.
We have discovered that Bray Wyatt, there is no such thing as a finisher against Bray Wyatt. It's
Yeah.
just a pin. It's just a move to
Pretty
pin them.
much need to like murder this guy to take him out, which is kind of good in a way because it builds up to the whole this freak of nature type of person that he is. So
The thing I gotta say is, what does this loss do for Dolph Ziggler?
I don't think it hurts. It doesn't necessarily help, but it doesn't hurt. I mean,
See, the thing they've done here
it's-
is it,
see, stuff like that to me, those are good losses when you're, someone who's up on the high side because you're losing to someone of consequence. So you guys can do a back and forth. You know what I mean?
I think from this match, what you can take is Bray Wyatt is getting wins as well. You know how we always see him lose at the end of a
Yeah,
feud.
and that's the thing.
They build his character up that way. They give him wins of equal superstars, so that he's still taken seriously. I think that was the bit I was always missing with Bray Wyatt. I always thought that he was just in a feud to lose, and he stayed popular. That we have to remember the fact that he's still winning matches, and they're still pretty valuable matches. I mean, he had wins against Dean Ambrose. He just had a win against Dolph Ziggler. They make him taken more seriously within the community. And
Yeah. Instead of just get over like a guy who puts you over by giving you a really good match. Because he put over Daniel Bryan, he put over John Cena. He just puts people over. And he doesn't need to just put people over. He needs to be taken a lot serious.
That's exactly it. And that match was, again, it's incredible. The only thing that I find weird about Bray Wyatt is the fact that his moves seem like they hurt. Like, some of the moves he does, he looks like he does them with such impact. That it would actually kill. Like, I've seen Dolph Ziggler he's easily the scariest person to watch get clothesline.
Dolph Ziggler sells, like, sometimes he oversells, but he's probably the best seller in the WWE because he makes moves look like they're like, good lord, you fear for his life when somebody hits.
Yeah, no. When he got clotheslined by Bray Wyatt, I actually thought Dolph Ziggler's head just rolled off his body because Dolph Ziggler just went down like straight away.
Yeah, he takes like hard bumps. He's crazy. That's why he's always getting concussions though, because he sells it so much. Like, geez, dude.
No, that's definitely. And for the ending of the match, you had Bray Wyatt winning with the Sister Abigail, which I think is a cool move. I like it. I don't mind it. I think it's a good finisher. And, I mean, at that point, the only thing I could take out of the match that I didn't really like was the fact that he just bounced straight up from the finisher. That's nitpicking in that match, but that was the only thing that I really didn't understand. So I'll let you talk about the next match because I can't. Because on the Raw, I downloaded it. Actually skipped the
match. Let's just say it this way: Alicia Fox, two crazy chicks going at it. Bellas come out, mock. And it's funny too because I read somewhere someone was like, "Oh, they did their Mean Girls act." That's pretty much what this is all boiling down to. It's like a scene from the movie Mean Girls, where it's just like two of the like popular girls making fun of the weirdo, the weird new girl, the chick that doesn't fit in and all. It's like, come on, really? Okay, Paige wins, but then they attack her and they spray paint her because she's too pale. Really though? Really? It's like, and again, this goes to what you were saying about the Divas making an impact on the Divas match because apparently on the show, like you said, the big thing is Paige is pale. So now that's translating over to wrestling. It's like, who gives a fuck if she's pale? It shouldn't be about her being pale. You mean to tell me this whole challenge for the championships is all because you think this chick's pale and you don't like pale chicks? That's why you want to beat her ass? In
I
a
mean,
pic-
I think that's a bit drastic considering Sheamus went through. Oh, well, Sheamus did cop a fair bit of stuff for being pale. I think. See, the thing I will take about Sheamus though is the fact that he's pale and he's a ginger.
yeah. But it was like they kind of made it a strength of him too because they called him the Great White. So it wasn't a total clown fest. You know what I mean? It didn't rob him of I
Title
don't
shots or anything.
maybe I just don't remember, but did they ever pin him down and spray paint tan body spray on him? You know what I mean? It's like they're going too far with it. It's one thing if like I cut a promo against Sheamus because I'm going against him and I crack a joke here and there on him. You know what I mean? People do that, like a Jericho type of thing where Jericho will crack a joke or something on you. But they're making this the gimmick. It's like every time Paige is on the scene and the Bellas show up, oh, you're so pale. I can't believe you're so pale. Like, really? This is the premise of the Heat. You're pale, and we're going to make fun of you because we're 15 again. You
I
know,
mean, like I said from the start, the Divas division annoys the absolute crap out of me. It just as much as they can do with it, they do the stupidest things, and everything has to result back. It has to go back to the show, which is the thing that's messing up the Divas division, in my opinion. If they could just separate the show from WWE, I think it'd be a lot better.
yeah,
So, because
it makes more
I
sense. Like, pretend like the show is real life and just leave it there. Don't make it. It's garbage. It's dumb. It's so
which
stupid.
what I didn't understand was I can understand if you're showing the divas backstage. See, this was meant to. The thing I don't understand is why do they have to show the WWE matches? Why can't they just show them backstage, show them training, show their personal lives? I thought that was all they had to do. I didn't think they had to affect outcomes of matches to fit the show.
Yeah, it's just bad.
Well,
Really
we're
bad.
not going to talk. We're not going to talk about that anymore. We're going to
Yeah,
move to
talk
the
about it
next match,
all the
which
time.
it doesn't get any better.
Page
Trust me.
one, yay, page. Okay.
Yeah, Paige did a roll up and won, and it didn't get any better after that match because the next match was the Miz vs Sin Cara, and Sin Cara is absolutely hideous on Raw. Like for some reason, the way they bring Sin Cara in is he's just this guy that just appears and it's like, who's that? Where did he come from? And then I thought again it was pretty funny between the Miz and Mizdow how Mizdow wanted to please the fans and copy the Miz, but the Miz was telling him no, you stay there. I mean, all in all, that's how they portrayed it. Like it led to the downfall of the Miz in that match. Like the Miz was basically
He was so
after
busy yelling at Miz now and getting on him to stop him from one-upping him with the crowd that he lost focus, I guess. And
yeah, because Sin Cara wasn't the same after the Rolling Senton. Once he jumped off the top rope and missed, it was just average. And that match was just... The Miz has very few moves. He has a headlock, a pin, a headlock, a pin, a drop kick or something. Oh, no, that like...
so I was about to say he got the neck breaker, back breaker combo.
Yeah, that's what I was just actually about to
And
say.
well, he'll do the jump through the rope clothesline thing sometimes.
I like that. I actually do like that.
Yeah.
He's very limited in the ring, and honestly, like you said, Sin Cara wins with a roll up, which was the second roll up match in a row because that's how Paige won as well. So that's kind of irritating. But that match, again, it was pretty funny at the end when the Miz is like on the ground and he's like basically like no, and then you see Mizdow come in the ring and he goes to go down and then he's like oh wait, and he gets back up and he just stands there. I can't wait for Mizdow to go over. I think that's just they've built him well. I think this actual tag team has helped him a lot.
Yeah.
Because do you
I
remember
just find it a
Sandow on
shame
his
though
own?
that it's gonna be the Miz he's gonna have to fight because I don't want to see the Miz in the ring anymore.
That's so true. So the next, well, these have been appearing weekly now, and this is the Bray Wyatt promos to. You'd say right now a lot of the WWE universe have kind of figured it out or have ideas as to where it's going because this could go really any way. And I have the feeling it's the Undertaker, just the way he portrays it. Like he's saying that everyone used to fear you, used to like scare people, which screams the Undertaker.
Yeah.
Because they always used to talk about the Undertaker, everyone being scared on the way to the ring or in his entrance and whatnot. And then Bray Wyatt was saying he's the new face of fear.
Yeah, it could be definitely. It makes sense. It makes sense as a connection. If it's not the Undertaker though, who?
True. What a good promo though. Like honestly, these promos I love these promos to the Undertaker. And when he did that, you know when he leans back and he kind of like looks, and then he said, "Find me." I was like, "That's epic." This guy. This guy's magic at the moment.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
why
he's
is
very good. His psychology when in his promos is really good because he makes you like, yo, what's wrong with them? Like, he kind of, it's a work, but if you if you didn't know that it was, a work, you probably would be kind of freaked out by this dude because
how
he's
crazy is it?
one of the few people, like you said before, who actually owns his character, and that's what makes it so much better because he's really embodying the whole Bray Wyatt character.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Like, you can't get any like on a different view than that. But you can say, we, how cool would it be? Because I reckon if Undertaker is to return, it'll be after Fastlane. If Bray
Yeah.
Wyatt's just in the ring and then the lights go off, and then because like I said, even though Undertaker is getting old, he's one of those wrestlers like I want to see again. I want him to go back. Like if he could go in a time machine and come back again,
I
I
mean,
would love that.
he's pretty decent though for his age, but yeah.
He,
But the only
I
problem
think
I
it's
have with him and Bray Wyatt is that he's gonna have to lose because it does nothing for Bray Wyatt. Well, I mean, I think if had Bray Wyatt, had Brock Lesnar not beat the Undertaker, then him losing to the Undertaker would have been great because so many people have lost to the Undertaker and had great matches and got over from that. But now that the streak is over, losing to the Undertaker kind of it's not to me at least from my view it's not going to be the same at WrestleMania. You know?
well, I think they'll send the Undertaker off with a win, but then again, I think the way Triple H described it as with the Undertaker losing to Brock Lesnar, it was um, giving back everything he'd gotten. I think those were the words he used in the podcast. Like it was Undertaker giving back everything he had gotten back to the company, and I feel like the respectful thing would be to send him off with a win. I'd hate for Undertaker's last match to be a loss,
Well, but that's the
but
tradition. That's sadly the tradition in wrestling. I mean, look at it, Ric Flair,
oh yeah,
Shawn,
Ric Flair copped the sweet chin.
uh, you go out with that law unless you quit before you get that. Like when you're like retiring,
I
you
mean,
with that.
Ric Flair's retiring gimmick was kind of hideous. Like he's like 78 and he's in the ring, and then Vince is like, "Yeah, you basically have to retire. The next match you lose, you're out."
Yeah, but it was a good
Rick,
match. That match against Shawn Michaels was actually good.
no, that was a good match. Like Ric Flair still had it at his age. I just thought that I understand that some wrestlers don't want to leave the ring, but
Yeah.
you have to know when your time's like Not or basically when your time's up. Like even if you can still perform, like Billy Gunn can still perform, but you don't see him in the week. You don't see him on Raw every week.
Yeah, no, yeah, both of them. They're still like they're better than most people I've seen. Like half their age is in the ring, but yeah, they're not pushing it, you know. And I think that's what you should do. You should there should be a time like when Bret Hart left. He probably should have still wrestled, but he was just like, I'm done. You know?
Yeah, so true. So from the Bray Wyatt promo, all in all, you're taking it. He's calling out the Undertaker, and we'll see what happens from there. Then you've got Eric Rowan versus Rusev, which was well, you used the words a crush match or a squash
It
match,
was just
a squash
squash.
match.
Yeah, it wasn't even a match because they never rang the bell. That's the funny
Yeah,
part.
yeah. Rusev just destroyed Eric Rowan, like literally destroyed. It's funny seeing it was so funny seeing Rusev give Eric Rowan one of those scoop slams, like when he just picked him up and slammed him. Because Rusev's small,
Yeah,
like he's
he's very short.
so him holding someone that big and slamming them was the funniest thing to see. And you know what? The Rusev promo on this Raw was excellent. I reckon. I think this is some of the best he's done. Like, I like the movie. I thought the movie was creative. I thought it was pretty cool. I did not know that he gave the accolade to Mark Henry, so that was something new when I was watching the highlights.
Yeah, I remember that match.
That
Because that's what
that
started Mark
instantly made
Henry
me.
and Big Show feud. Because like Big Show
Oh,
was
well, there
like
you go.
cheering him on, and he was disappointed, and then Big Show was getting cheers. He got jealous and all of that.
No, that's understandable. And then you had, I thought it was pretty funny at the end when Rusev's talking, like basically chanting himself, and then the Russian flag's meant to come down,
And see, I'm
and it
curious
gets
because they
stuck.
played that off very well. Because they were like, "Hey, does John Cena have something to do with this?" Because I really think that was just the person who set it up fucked up. I don't think that was intentional.
Yeah.
I seriously think that someone just fucked up, and they played it very cool. Because even after it happened, they went backstage, and you saw Rusev going off, and he's just like complaining, and Lana's complaining, and they're both speaking in Russian, like just livid over what happened. But I don't think that was something that they intended on happening. I just think that whoever's on their teams of engineers, he just like really messed that shit up.
They improvised well, though. I gotta say, I
Yeah,
gotta give it
no, and I
to
thought it was brilliant. I thought
Rusev.
it actually helped the moment for that to happen.
Yeah, because when Rusev went and got the flag and then just started waving it like aggressively, I
Right.
thought that was fun. I'm actually excited. Believe it or not, when I first heard about, like I say every week, when I first heard about Cena Rusev, I wasn't interested, but now I'm like getting more and more. I think this is doing well for Cena not being in the big title picture, but still being in some title whatsoever. He Cena can build promos, and Rusev this is showing a new side to Rusev.
Yeah. It's
The fact that he can play his part.
it also helps too because I mean, as much as a lot of us hate the fact that Cena barely loses to people who are quote unquote underneath him, it's exciting that there's a potential that he could lose this because they might want to keep the Rusev streak alive. And in a way, it's exciting to think of him as winning because, like we said, it's the potential of taking the U.S. title and putting it on somebody who everybody cares about, and now you're going to care about the U.S. champ and the U.S. title, and now you could have him have some good matches and set up like John Cena, Dean Ambrose, John Cena. I wouldn't mind seeing Bray Wyatt again because Bray Wyatt could possibly get the title. Make that title like, and he'll be a fighting champion, and that's what we really need is somebody who actually fight with the championship. You
Yeah,
know?
and you don't need Cena to hold the title for like that doesn't mean Cena can't leave this title like He just needs to come in, give it some work, lose a respectable match to a respectable opponent, and then he can do whatever. He can go back up to the top.
Exactly.
If that's the path he wants to take, they can do that. They could have him lose to, say, a Bray Wyatt, or have him lose to a Dean Ambrose. See, because
Yeah, I mean, hell, I wouldn't even mind if he lost it back to Rusev at some point. Because at least it'll be someone who will give everybody else a target too.
And now that they're building up the tag team divisions, they're trying to stock them up a bit more. I think WWE is getting back to a point where titles are going to matter. The biggest thing that needs to happen is the belts to split.
Yeah.
That's the final. That's the icing on the cake. But then again, you think the title split, you have Bray Wyatt, Dean Ambrose, and all that. They're going to want to go for the World Heavyweight.
But I mean, that's fine because you could have that in the U.S. both. The U.S., the World Heavyweight, and the Intercontinental can all have some meaning. Even if it is just tiering it, like, okay, world champion people are the 4 or 5 we think are the like faces of the company, right?
Yeah.
Then the WWF Championship, World Heavyweight are the people who are right at who are right there. Like, you're not at the top, but we feel like you are the next coming. Like, that would have been the perfect thing for Roman Reigns to go for and have get burn off of, by giving him that title that's like right underneath but not at the top. It just give people the signal, hey, this dude's somebody you need to take serious. And then you have like the Intercontinental be like the top of the mid cards. Like, this is why you want to watch all our other shows. Like, this is one of the reasons why you want to invest in SmackDown, because there's going to be some interesting matches over this and the U.S. title on SmackDown. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That interesting. Like, you have to. It has to make make what watching matter again, like it used to. Because I don't care to see Fandango, because Fandango is not of consequence for any reason.
Yeah.
I don't care about Barrett, Bad News Barrett, because he's a paper champion at best. He's just holding it, just until they wanted to hand it off to somebody who they're trying to give a little pop. But if it was more meaningful, then I might care to see Bad News Barrett a lot more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get that part. That's definitely understandable. So that the steps they take into this Rusev Cena match and the steps they take in this Dan Ambrose Wade Barrett match go a lot to how these belts are going to be taken. Like,
Yeah.
the way these belts are going to be viewed. So I think we can safely move in to the main event. Before we talk about the Stone Cold podcast, we'll finish up Raw with the main event, which was Seth Rollins versus Daniel Bryan. Obviously, winner's gone to Fastlane to versus Roman Reigns. Winner of that goes to WrestleMania. And this match is good. This match is great. I love Daniel Bryan in ring. I love Seth Rollins in ring. Together, you can't go wrong. You literally cannot go wrong.
Yeah, it's a good matchup. I mean, it would have been just a nice match to have, period. But of course, they had to add the whole implications for, Roman Reigns and his title shot. And I still didn't like that, because again, I understand we all would have preferred Daniel Bryan. That's fine, but it didn't happen. We got Roman Reigns, which was considered probably by most of us the worst case scenario. Understandable. So now throwing Bryant into that mix, throwing us our little bone, it's going to cause chaos. It's really going to cause chaos, because that match against Roman Reigns is not going to get back at all, unless you turn Daniel Bryan heel, which I don't see happening
Ever.
because you know there's no way that Roman Reigns has a chance of getting over. Even if you turn Daniel Bryan heel, to be quite honest, Roman Reigns not getting over because the tone has already been set with the whole force push for him to be at the top. But if a lot of us feel like you've already forced your hand, you're not gonna make us like it no matter what. So putting Daniel Bryan in there, the guy who we all would have preferred, just makes it so either he wins and you show that you back down again, or Reigns wins and you piss people off even more by giving them false hopes. I don't know where's the win in that match. Unless it's some crazy shit where maybe Seth Rollins comes and like interferes and it becomes and then they have a triple threat. No, that's not even gonna work. Just to leave it alone. Like I said last week, just leave it alone. Let the
It's too
let the Roman Reigns thing play out on its own. I don't know. I can't think of anything that would make this situation better now. I feel like they're making it worse.
Yeah, I mean, like I said at the start, I think it was just Vince himself really hitting the panic button in the sense that he wasn't getting the reaction he thought he'd get by putting Reigns on top. And now he's trying to make amends by getting Bryan in. I think, in a way, this does lead back to the theory I have about Roman Reigns turning heel. Because think about it, Roman Reigns wins against Daniel Bryan, or does a bit of a dirty cheap shot.
Yeah, but
I understand what you're saying, because either way you look at it, either way of the spectrum, I really can't see Roman Reigns getting cleanly over Daniel Bryan. I can't see it.
no, like me personally, the best thing that you could do at this point is just let him go up against Brock, and hopefully he works a hell of a match. Like have him put on a memorable performance. That way, even if we don't come out of that match necessarily 100% behind him, you feel a little more respect for him. Because one of the biggest complaints is that he doesn't do that much work in the ring, or isn't polished enough in the ring. But if he could go to WrestleMania main event and put on like a memorable WrestleMania moment type of match, that would be a better step in the right direction. Because you can't throw him at the top and then try to snatch it back real quick. It's one thing to do it with Batista because Batista's already had titles. He's been at the top. He's not a full-time wrestler anyway. You brought him back because he's a sideshow attraction who was promoting the movie. So doing that to Batista, it's nothing because it's not going to ruin his legacy, anything like that, because his time came and gone as a full-time star. This dude's young and is just starting, and you already made the mistake of throwing him at the top before he was ready. Now you want to tear him back down and hit the reset? No, you're gonna mess him up, mess his career up.
Well, we'll just have to wait to see the Over the Limit, the direction they head, because it's going to be Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns at Over the Limit.
God help us.
So we'll hold on. I mean, they're filling up the
Not
card
what's
now.
best for business.
They're filling up the card now for Fastlane. It looks like we're basically getting the basic outline, and with that's the basic coverage of Raw. Did you have anything else to add to the Raw segment before we move on to the podcast?
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, it was nice to see a lot of matches. They weren't all the best matches, but there were some good matches. And the scenario for WrestleMania, at least to me, is looking worse. So.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. I think we're in the same boat there. I just want to say quickly for next week, in terms of Raw, they have Raw, and then I think on the 11th or the 13th is the NXT pay-per-view, which again is another reason for people to get that
Oh yes, definitely.
uh,
'Cause you're gonna get
free month of
Sami
network.
Zayn versus Kevin Owens, two great young wrestlers. I believe you get the conclusion of the number one contenders, or is that this week? Are they gonna do that this? No, it'll be during the pay per view. You get the
And
conclusion of the number one contenders match,
you get
uh,
that fatal four-way divas match.
right? And you're
Which,
gonna
you know what's weird? It's actually exciting to hear that.
yeah, it is because it's gonna be a good match. You're gonna get like some really good wrestlers in Charlotte and Sasha Banks in that mix. You're gonna actually see like a women's wrestling match that's actually entertaining to watch. Who would have thought in the WWE universe that you can get that? But you got other stuff too. I mean, the tag teams are probably going to be contending on there, and they'll have a lot of. I mean, they'll have a lot of other matches too going on. That's gonna be
Yeah, the card hasn't really filled itself out too much, but you
yeah,
get a general idea of the direction it's heading. So another reason to get the WWE Network free in February, you get Fastlane, the NXT pay-per-view. If you didn't watch the the Stone Cold podcast that we're about to discuss, that's on there as well. So that's a whole load of content already.
yeah,
So let's do it. Let's talk the podcast, which, I was actually more excited for this podcast than the one with Vince.
yeah. Because I was curious to see. I felt like Hunter was going to get a different set of questions. He did, and give a better set of answers, which he did. Because we all know Vince wasn't going to really open up and you know be. I won't say honest because I'm not trying to say that he was being dishonest, but he wasn't going to be open. He was. You knew Vince was going to do what he did, which was avoid certain issues and try to downplay him. You know.
Yeah, like I think the first thing they started with was the Triple H saying that kayfabe is dead. He said it's 100% dead,
Yeah.
and it's like for people that don't know, the kayfabe is basically just the WWE superstars being portrayed as real instead of being. Everyone now knows that what wrestlers do in the ring isn't real.
Yeah.
Like they're not actually getting beaten to death. They're just actors. So the fact that it's done, the fact that Triple H just said that, I mean, it doesn't really affect anything because you still enjoy watching WWE for the entertainment value. I think that's where most of it comes from anyway. So it doesn't really mean much, but for him to come out and say it, I thought that was pretty interesting. Just it was just so straight. Like he was just like, yeah, kayfabe's dead.
Yeah, he was very blunt with it when he went into detail about how hard it is to like do it and things like that. I mean, I will say this: while you could say kayfabe is dead, I think one of the things I've heard older wrestlers say over and over again, especially Stone Cold, is true. Stone Cold probably said it the best. Yep, we know it's fake, but we also know movies are fake. We still go watch movies anyway because what we want is we want to believe. Like when we go to a movie, we know that Denzel Washington has been in 100 different movies, but when we go see Man on Fire, we want to see him portray that character like in the best possible light. So with wrestling, yeah, kayfabe's dead, but that doesn't mean you have to stop, pretending like this is real. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the thing that was pleasing to see was Triple H being acknowledged for NXT and the fact that he really does understand the business. This is something people have to understand about Triple H. even though he was everything he was in the ring, he does understand the backstage stuff just as much. Like, he understands that now the Raw is pleasing. They have to please from 8-year-olds all the way. Like, I think he described it as he'd have an 8-year-old at Raw, and then next to him you'd have a bunch of 22-year-olds with a group of mates that want to see something completely different. Then you got a mother and a father, you got grandparents, and how when people think about Raw and what they want to see, they don't really take in consideration the actual audience watching.
Right.
Like, we kind of just voice what we want to see personally, but as we always say, opinions are your own, and they shouldn't be taken any further than yourself. I mean, that's
I
the way I look at
also
it.
like what he said about how when Triple H asked, I mean when Stone Cold asked him, why do you do NXT the way you do it? He was like, well, I just do it like something
I
that
would like
I
to
would want
see.
to watch.
Yeah,
And I like that because it shows that he understands, like, he's still in the mind of what made him great, what made his era great.
yeah,
Yeah, that's how he kind of carries NXT. I'm glad he was like, that's what I want to watch, because he talked about how he grew up watching wrestling and what made him like wrestling. So you could tell, like, when he said that, the reason NXT is the way it is because he bringing you wrestling like he used to watch, like he used to live. And I'm glad he does that. I'm really glad he does that.
I mean, the way that the game, he was just so down to earth in the podcast. Like, everything he was saying was just like he was trying to give as much information as he could. It was like he had nothing really to hide. I mean, with the exception of the CM Punk bit, he kind of danced around it. That was the only part of the entire podcast that I felt he
Yeah,
wasn't.
even then, I didn't think he was I mean, yeah, I think he tried to step lively, but I didn't think that he was being disingenuous in a way. Because he came out and said, he was like, I don't have a beef with him. I do think that he's kind of a weird guy because communicating with him wasn't always the best. So it wasn't like he completely held back his opinion. He just didn't. I mean, he did what he should have did, because at the end he culminated in saying, hey, if people want him back and he wants to come back, there's no problem because it's what would be good for the business, like he always says. It's what's best for business. So there's no sense in holding a grudge and saying never say never. It's he left himself. He was smart enough to leave that opening room. Whereas I think with Vince, you could kind of tell with Vince, he just didn't want to get into it because he was uncomfortable with the situation. I think Triple H was just trying to say what would sound best for the situation, because you got to think he still has to. It's funny too, and you kind of saw it at the end when Stone Cold was like, "We're running out of time." He was like, "No, we can do another 5-10 minutes," and then he stopped and was like, "Well, wait, who's in your ears? That Vince?" Because he kind of can't. He has weight, he has power, but he can't do. He can only do but so much because the Vince is still there. You know what I mean? And that's what I felt like with the CM Punk thing. It was like, I don't want to say anything that's gonna necessarily put me, because I still have to answer to Vince, no
Yeah,
matter.
because Vince is hovering over. I think he made that pretty clear within the podcast that Vince was the number one guy. He said it all goes back to one guy, and that is Vince. And Vince basically says, "This is what we're doing. You can come with as many ideas as you want, but he's taking one, and it doesn't matter if it's from you, this guy, that guy in the back. It just doesn't matter." So I thought it was pretty cool also how you found out Triple H actually does pay attention to the internet. He knew a lot of what was going on.
Well, yeah, and I mean, if you actually paid attention, people don't really know this, but Triple H's Twitter, he says a lot of stuff on there. He like when the whole best for business thing became like a big joke on the internet. he played that shit up to a T. And that's part of the reason why he continues to say it. Or like go back to the beginning of the show when they were talking about the authorities, stuff like that. He was talking about,
Cancel the
everything.
NFL
And he
Network.
was like, and hey, we know how you feel because we listen to the WWE universe. And the way he said it was like, I know you guys know we feel like we don't listen. So I'm gonna say it as like sarcastic as possible because he knows what we're talking about. I mean, I'm not saying he watches this podcast, but it wouldn't surprise me if something that we said came from it, if it got out there, if it like went viral, because he pays attention to a lot of stuff. He's
Yeah,
very in
no,
tune with the crowd.
yeah, that's exactly it. And I mean, Triple H himself was just the way he was talking. I mean, even hearing him discuss, like, talk on behalf of, he also hears about what critics have to say about him. So when people would talk, he bring back his past in the WWE when he first started dating Stephanie McMahon, and the industry was just like, oh, that's why you're going to be the next superstar. You're dating the boss's daughter and all that. And then he quoted The Undertaker as saying, you know who you are, you know what you bring to the table, all this. And it was a different way to look at Triple H, like, as in he was a guy that he cared about what people thought about him so much that it was affecting him, and then to just switch it off to a point where he could still perform and still do what he loves and not get so affected by the way people discuss and like talk about his relationship and his love life. I think that worked out well for him.
Yeah, no, he's very good at I think, like, again, going back to the CM Punk thing, I think you can believe him when he says that he doesn't have a beef with CM Punk, even if he doesn't like something that people do. I think that he's at a point where he understands, like, hey, this is a business that you're not going to get along with everybody. You're not going to agree with everybody. So it's kind of senseless to sit and be mad and hold grudges and to keep that stuff in. I think he's, like, I remember people used to say him and Brock, like, just never cared for each other. And it may have been true. But he knows, like, speaking business wise, Brock's a great attraction. And he's an asset.
Okay.
So, fuck what I feel. It's me being in my feelings isn't going to help
I,
anything.
I I heard like a while ago when Brock Lesnar came back that Triple H was one of the biggest reasons, because Triple H was working with him, talking to him heavily backstage. Because so the thing people don't understand about Triple H is he talks to every wrestler.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't care if you're small, if you're big. He'll talk to you. He'll give you feedback. That in every wrestling documentary or interview or something, and they talk about superstars, they always bring up Triple H and how he cares about, from NXT all the way up to the WWE. It doesn't matter. And using a quote from him within this was probably one of the best quotes he used, and he referred to WWE is the greatest form of entertainment, as they could change the directions at the drop of the hat. Which made me laugh because Stone Cold replied, he's like, is that what you did with Daniel Bryan? Like, getting him into that match for the Royal Rumble for Over the Limit. I think that was the overall direction. I thought that was pretty funny. But I have to agree with that, especially with WWE, that the fact that they could be going one way and then just suddenly take a complete left field and just run that way.
Yeah, but you know what his answer to the whole situation I thought was perfect too, when he said the whole thing about one of the things that he always says about the business is that wrestling is an unfinished book. It's a book that never.
Yeah.
And he was like telling, I love how he said, like, to people, was like, I understand you don't like the way things are going, but you have to remember, Daniel Bryan goes to WrestleMania last year, he wins it, and he walks off with the title. that wasn't the end of the story. It still had to keep going. And, unfortunately, he had the ending and the injury and all that kind of sidetracked that. But, Daniel Bryan going to WrestleMania and winning the title doesn't end things. They have to keep going and keep going with this. It can't. Something's going to always happen. And I thought that, and that made me actually sit back, and that kind of, I thought that was a good thing to say, because it kind of deflates some of the anger against the Roman Reigns thing, because it brings you back to the reality is that, you know what, okay, so what if Roman Reigns ends up with the belt? It doesn't mean that it's a forever type of thing,
That's exactly it. And I think with Daniel Bryan, the way he said, yeah, Daniel Bryan won at WrestleMania, all that stuff, but then he's like, but then he had to get up the next day for Raw, and the show just goes on. So that they're already planning for the next WrestleMania. They're already looking to the future.
Right.
Like, basically, once that finished, he said he didn't even have time to celebrate because he had to go to sleep, get up for the next Raw.
Exactly.
And the next touchy subject that I think I was actually quite surprised. I mean, obviously they were talking about DX at some stage throughout the podcast,
Right.
but when they asked Triple H, will China be inducted into the Hall of Fame? I mean, for anyone that doesn't, like, I understand the situation that the WWE find themselves in. Like, okay, the way Triple H put it was like, you get China in, and then you have an 8-year-old boy that's like, oh, China's in the Hall of Fame. Who's she? Let's check her out. And they're going to go on Google, they're going to search China, and they're going to see a list of her porn.
Exactly.
Good God. I understand that. I understand why that is a reason not to put her in, but it kind of sucks.
He honestly didn't say that they weren't going to put her in, but he was like, you have to consider that. And it does make sense, in a way, especially with the direction that WWE has gone over the last few years, where they're trying to be a more family-friendly brand than they were. So, I mean, and that I can understand. It's just like Benoit. As soon as he said that, that's the first thing I thought about. I was like, damn, Benoit. Because it's like, again, Benoit was one of the greatest, technicians in the ring I've ever seen. That dude could work like shit. He was great. Good on the mic. I love Benoit. But, Benoit goes to the Hall of Fame, and, again, 8-year-old Google's Chris Benoit, and what is going to be the most recent story that you're going to get about Benoit?
I think it with China's thing, it's reasonable to hesitate her entrance, but if her career was really as good as it was, in terms of it deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, which I think it does personally, then you have to put her in. I mean, wasn't Mike Tyson inducted?
Yeah.
Wasn't he convicted of rape in?
Yeah.
See that you can only postpone these entrances for so long. Eventually,
I think she's gonna end up getting in, but yeah, there's gonna be some hesitation. It definitely is. Gonna, just like I think Benoit has to get in eventually.
Yeah, definitely.
And it could be 100%. The fact that hasn't China recently done porn? I think that may be the thing. Seriously, I think that may be the thing. It's like, bringing up Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson's kind of, he went to jail, he came out, he did the crazy ear biting thing, he fell down.
That's crazy.
But then he picked himself back up, and, people look at Mike Tyson now as a tale of redemption because of the things that he's gone through, and now that, he's had the Broadway show, he's had the documentary. He's got his cartoon going on now. It's like he's kind of, risen above the negativity. So now he's kind of clean enough to go in. Maybe that's what they're waiting for, the moment when she's clean enough to go in.
I mean, yeah. No, I can understand that. I mean, with that said, they also did discuss Bruno Sammartino and the Ultimate Warrior, how it was Triple H that did the backstage talking to get these people to agree to come back to the WWE. See, I was led to believe that Vince basically fixed the bridge.
You know
But
what? I honestly, I don't know if I believe Triple H when he said he did it, but I definitely would never believe that Vince would bridge it because Vince is not that type of person. Vince's bridging gaps is, you know, we can make a lot of money.
But with that said, two well-deserved entrants into the Hall of Fame, especially with the Bruno, not Bruno, Ultimate
No,
Warrior.
Bruno too,
Just
because you got to think no one held the title longer than him.
no, I
I
don't
mean,
say that he
that
doesn't
happened.
deserve it. I don't say he doesn't deserve it. I'm just saying the way the Ultimate Warrior was inducted, how he got inducted, and then on Raw he did his speech, and then he passed away the very next day. Like that was just, it's scary to think about. Just it was like he almost fulfilled what he had to do, and then it just went that way.
Yeah, it kind of did seem that way.
Yeah, it's just scary to think about. But we'll talk a bit about one of the more interesting points in it. It was very shortly covered in the podcast, but Brock Lesnar's future with the WWE, because I think Stone Cold said his contract comes out after WrestleMania, which
Yeah.
we're assuming Lesnar's going to lose the title. That's more than likely how it's going to go. But I've heard.
I don't know. I don't know.
I've heard that Lesnar wants to go back to the MMA.
That's the rumor. He wants to go back to MMA, but I also heard that he also told them that he would work more if they wanted him to, as long as they um, the money they paid him the same that he was getting for what he's doing now. So I don't know. I mean, they could make it work with Lesnar because I think he likes being in the WWE. Um,
Yeah.
but they're not willing to probably pay him on that level. It's like for one UFC fight, he can get a lot more than what he can get
I
if he
mean,
was a regular everyday wrestler. And I think that's all he cares about is you pay him well enough, he'll do it.
yeah, no, that's fair enough. But I think Triple H just basically left it simply at the end. It just comes down to Brock Lesnar. It's what Brock Lesnar wants to do, and we'll have to wait and see after WrestleMania which path Brock takes, because I mean the support's going to be there regardless. People are going to follow him back to the MMA,
Yeah.
and people are going to stay with him in the WWE. It doesn't really matter. He's a freak of nature, and I mean from there, I mean there's not much really to put in like the CM Punk part. I mean, I know that Triple H kind of portrayed, like, put CM Punk in a light that he was kind of a weird character. He was just very, very distant, very quiet, which is kind of weird because the way we've seen CM Punk is he's very vocal. He says what he feels, especially in the Best in the World documentary. That's all he would say in the thing. He's like, he doesn't stand for bullshit. He'll just tell it to you like it is. He'll say what he feels. He'll give you his ideas. And for Triple H to say that Punk is someone that just like kind of keeps himself and just, I don't know, just it was just it was like two opposite sides of the fence. But like you said, it was just a very straight answer from Triple H, just giving an answer
It was
that
a
will
diplomatic answer. It was the best you could say for that situation because I honestly don't think that situation is really sitting well with Vince. I think especially after the interview, and especially after some of the reactions from some of the people in the business. So even if Triple H really did hate this dude, he can't be another person coming out publicly and reacting poorly because it just makes them look worse as a business. Because you already had Road Dogg, say what he said on Twitter, and had to apologize, and other people, go off about what he was saying and get pissy at him. You had Vince dancing around and clearly showing that he was, in the wrong and all of that, trying to avoid it. So Triple H probably it's the best way he could like stay clear of that mess. And it's funny because it's like what I was saying on my thoughts of it. This is why he's called the Game, because he knows
How
how
to
to
play
play
it.
things, properly. He
No,
played
yeah,
that well.
that's exactly it, and that the whole thing is, uh, Punk will more than likely never be back. That's just my thoughts. It's done and dusted for Punk. Punk's gone, and I don't know how he's gonna go in the MMA. I really don't know. I mean, I would assume that the way they book him at the start is he's gonna verse some nobodies, get some wins.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's the thing. You can't really go against a nobody in MMA and not get your ass kicked, though. Especially
Yeah,
when you're not such a
it's
good.
going to be
I mean, look
interesting
at
to
Kimbo
see.
Slice. They tried their best with Kimbo Slice, and he just couldn't do it. So
Nah, that's fair enough. So we can move on to Triple H's baby, and I actually this was probably my highlight of the podcast when he was talking about NXT, the way he goes about it, the way he said that Vince is like, all right, this is your show, like you do it yourself, sort of thing, and that shows that Vince himself has a lot of trust in Triple H, and like you can almost guarantee that the future is looking brighter for when Vince moves on. You got Triple H. He's going to take the throne basically,
yeah,
and he like you can already like if NXT is his proving ground and the stuff that he's doing at NXT is just that good. It's just I think the way Triple H described it was best. It's like um, he was saying that with NXT, it's basically like you said, it's what he wants to see, and he knows his crowd. He said that he knows his crowd is hardcore wrestlers because it's on the WWE network, and he knows it's like the age group of the people that are watching it. So he's able to build um, storylines and stuff from there. And I mean, he's doing well with such a small card. Like it's not tiny, but it's pretty small.
yeah, yeah. It's nice. 1 hour. He fills a lot of matches. Good promos in that 1 hour. He gets a lot of value out of that 1 hour.
Yeah, like that all in all was great. I mean, Stone Cold complimented the lighting, the way the superstars are, because the triple NXT looks like really old wrestling. Like the promos kind of look a bit botchy. Like it's not that they're bad promos. It looks like they're given a bit of freedom in a sense. Like it's not like some of the things they say in NXT is just it's just their promos are good. It's just very rough and raw, and I like that. I don't know if that's because they're inexperienced in the business. I know that they said Dusty Rhodes is working on a lot of these kids with promos.
Yeah, and they need him to do. Lord, they need him. Ric Flair. Uh, who else? Maybe that's what they need to hire CM Punk back for too. Paul Heyman, Zeb Coulter, all of them need to sit in a room with Roman Reigns and beat this shit into him.
Speaking of Paul Heyman, the way they described him was great. Where it's like he's on a balance between genius
Yeah,
and
understand.
insane.
Yeah,
Yeah, and he's just like drawing the line. But I thought, see, like overall from the podcast, you can basically take out what Triple H wants to do whenever he takes over the actual company itself. Like he said himself, he'd want Raw to go back to 2 hours instead of three. That's his thoughts. He thinks that three might be a bit too much. He wants women to get more ring time, and I think that is becoming apparent in NXT because Charlotte and Sasha Banks and all that, they actually do get a bit of
yep,
ring time in there. They have chances to show themselves. He wants stories to be more developed over time instead of just they throw it on the plate. And this leads back to when he was talking about when he learnt the industry, right? He said that going to Vince invited him to a meeting, and they went into the room, and Vince was like, "I want this to happen. You guys think about how this happens."
Yeah. Actually, I
And
forgot one thing too that I thought was really interesting too was the part where they were talking about Roman Reigns. He was talking about, people are saying like he's not ready and all that, but from looking in from the outside in, you can't necessarily like say that. But then on the flip side, when they were talking about the King of the Ring, where he was supposed to win, but they decided, nope, we're giving this to Stone Cold. And he was like, they had wanted me to get it, but then they took it from me. And, at the time, it didn't sit well, but he understands now that that was the best thing to happen because he wasn't ready. And then Stone Cold was like, well, did you so you thought you weren't ready then? And he was like, well, no, of course at the time somebody tells me I'm not ready, I'm going to tell you no because, I'm young, I'm hungry, I want to get it. But in hindsight, I know I wasn't ready, and he was glad that there were people around to say that he wasn't ready because he felt like had he been put in the spotlight at that moment, he would have messed it up and things might not have went the way it went for his career. So I felt like that was kind of a backhanded slap at Vince too, where it's like he kind of defended the move, but then he gave an example of why shit like that doesn't work, wouldn't have worked, and why he's glad no one ever put him in that position. I felt like that was kind of like a tweak at Vince in a way.
no, yeah, I understand that. And the final thing that Triple H wants in terms of WWE itself is he wants promos to become less scripted. But I think that really, again, he I agree with what he said in a sense that it's live TV, so they really do have to be careful about what they say. And the way he made it, the way he portrayed it was like, you have sponsors, you have people of different race and religions, you have just all these things that the general public, we don't see. We see a guy talking, we want him to say he's going to kick some ass, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. And we think it's just all smooth sailing. We don't really take into effect if someone turns around and says like, "Fuck" on the Raw, the outcome, what the
God help us if
punishment
we
is
have
going to
another
be.
Booker T moment.
Oh, good God, not that old. All right, that won't be coming anytime soon.
That was the greatest shit I've ever seen. I'm sorry.
He got too hood. He got way too hood way too quickly.
Yeah, no, he was feeling it. I mean, but it also is like example of how promos worked better back then because they got into the moment and made it their own. He just lost consciousness for a second, but up until that point, everything was perfect. I mean, he was going hard at Hulk Hogan. He just
He went way too hard.
yeah. It's just that he just accidentally like took it a little too far.
So someone should have stopped him once they saw him going into that full rage mode. Someone should have grabbed the mic.
No, because it was beautiful. It was a good moment. It's like he just said that, and it's like, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, all right. Well, credit to
Well, you've just ruined the promo.
Around him because they played it right, and he did too. Because
he just went back.
You can see he looked like shit. But Mean Gene, he played it cool. Kept the moment like going. So that was
kept it. Yeah, he kept it. So I think with the Triple H, the overall thing I'm going to take from this podcast, I'd love to see it go again, another round, more questions.
Yeah, no, they need to do it.
The overall thing I'm going to take from this podcast is Triple H knows what he's doing. He knows what's best for business. When he says that, he means it. He knows where the WWE is heading He has a really good understanding of the company itself, and you can almost put your trust in him that when Vince moves aside, that the WWE may become an even better product.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's
I
just
really.
it's just right now his words they're still answering to Vince. They still have to answer to the one guy.
Yeah, exactly. No, we'll see though. We'll see. It was a good interview. I'm glad they did it. He should go on Stone Cold's show. I think that would be better. And I think we would get a lot more. I think we would get a lot more if he went on Stone Cold's show and did it instead of being at a WWE event with WWE people around to make sure nothing goes wrong.
Yeah, they keep him in check.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall that was a good one. That just about wraps up this week's podcast. I just want to mention quickly in terms of next week, like I said, with the NXT pay-per-view, we'll probably end up covering that because I do want to talk about. I want to bring NXT to the podcast.
Good.
Not like we cover.
Yeah, not
with
everything,
but like this pay-per-view, definitely I want to speak about it because it'll be my first live NXT pay-per-view.
Cool, yeah, definitely. I'm down for that. You know that.
All right. With that said, I think we can wrap it up here. You got anything to add in terms of?
No, that was pretty much. We covered all the WWE stuff. At least immediately for the shows and the podcasts and things like that. God knows something might pop up on SmackDown. I doubt it. But I mean, hey, you never know. And I think NXT will be a good thing to talk about, at least the next NXT show, because that's the lead in to the pay-per-view, and I expect to see a lot of good things because like I said, we're going to get the setup this week for the number one contenders match, and there's some really good matchups. If you don't watch NXT and you are using the free month for WWE Network, this Wednesday, this episode is probably one of the best NXTs that you could actually start to watch because they're in the semifinals of the number one contenders match for the NXT title, and there's really great matchups. You have Hideo Itami versus Finn Balor. If you don't know who either of those two are, I need you to I forget Hideo Itami's name in Japan. It's Kenji Kobayashi, I think was what his name was in Japan. So Google that, and then Google Prince Devitt if you want to know who those two are, and you be hyped for that match because they're great wrestlers from Japan that came over to WWE and joined NXT. And then the other matchup is Corbin Barron versus Adrian Neville. Again, Google those names. Corbin Barron, he's growing, but his look, his presence, and his finishing move, the end of days, he once they flesh out his moveset, I think he's going to be another great one. And I've already said enough about Adrian Neville to people. That dude, he's probably my favorite wrestler in NXT. The guy's amazing. Just look up Adrian Neville. You'll see what I'm talking about. Those are two good matches that you're going to see on that to introduce you to NXT. So definitely watch that so you can see what they have and you'll see why I hype it so much.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree with that. So,
that's about it.
You want to wrap things up?
Yeah. So as always, thank you guys for coming through and checking us out. We'll be back next week to talk about NXT, Raw, and what other else they can do to fuck up WrestleMania. Goodbye to the
people. Thank you all for watching. Like you said, we'll be back next week to discuss the catastrophe that is this over the limit match between Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys.
All right, guys. We'll see you later. Peace.